Now, I'm sure many of you, including myself at the moment, given all the blank and double game weeks we've got coming up, are considering playing their wildcard chip in game week 26. So here is my favourite wildcard draft. Now, I have to start this video by going through the chip strategy, which both me and Sam have been choosing in the fish and chip shop. Only joking. I'm considering a wild card this week, which involves free hitting in game week 28 and then playing the bench boost in game week 29 based on the wild card team that I'm building in 26. So basically, you set yourself up in 26 for the double in 27, the double in 29, ready to either play your bench boost in 27 or 29. Obviously, 12 teams are doubling in 29, so it makes sense to play the wild card then. So all of your 15 players in your FPL team all have double game weeks, which absolutely maximises the points that you get from that bench boost chip. Okay, now that's over. Here is the goalkeeper and the defenders that I'm initially selecting. In goal, I've gone for Kepa. Could quite easily be Rob Sanchez in fairness, but I just think Kepa is more reliable for the long term and also doubles in game week 29 when I'm planning to play the bench boost. Luke Shaw, Zinchenko and Estupinian from Brighton round out the defence. I don't think Kepa, Shaw and Zinchenko need too much discussion really. Shaw and Zinchenko, in my opinion, two of the best defenders in FPL. In Kepa, he's not been keeping clean sheets of recent, but he's still been making the saves, and I still think he's one of the best value goalkeepers in the game. So I'm going to keep faith in him. And as for Estupinian, I think for me, he doubles in 27 and 29. Absolutely makes sense to bring him in wildcard 26. He's personally my pick of the Brighton defenders, most attacking of them all, and appears to be pretty nailed. The only thing we've got to consider, he went off injured against Fulham. It's not expected to be a long-term injury. And we obviously have Lewis Dunk as backup, who I think is a perfectly decent option should Estupinian be confirmed to be injured. And as well as that, over the next two game weeks, 26 and 27, he's literally the highest defender for expected points. So if you're on your wild card, considering, we've got a rest of the week to go before confirming his injury or not for De Zerbi, see how we get on there. But for me, Estupinian is my first choice defender. Now, the midfield, not too many surprises, really. I think Salah, Saka and Rashford, outstanding midfielders this year in FPL. And to be honest, you could have some different options there instead of Salah, but I just feel like he's coming back into form now for Liverpool, looking really good, and he's got a nice double in 29. So I've gone with Salah because I have the budget to afford him. And then my fourth midfielder pick there, which might be quite interesting for some, but I've gone for Solly March, another Brighton player that is unfortunately missing the FA Cup games this week with a little niggle. Hopefully he's going to be back for the weekend, and again, we'll see that in the press conferences as the week goes on. For me, he's playing a new and far more attacking role than he has been before under the new manager. He's currently the top scoring Brighton midfielder in FPL. His underlying numbers are better than that of Mitoma, who you might be thinking is my first choice Brighton midfielder. What I'd really love to see is how his stats compare to Mitoma after the new manager came in, because, of course, these stats are for the entirety of the season when Solly March, for a period of time, was playing under Graham Potter, and I believe he was a fullback at that point in time. But now he's playing as a wide midfielder, and he's getting forward far more. So for me, March is by far a better option, actually, than Mitoma. That's probably a bit of an exaggeration, but I do believe he's a better option than Mitoma. So for me, he takes a starting spot in my wildcard team. And then on to my three forwards. I've gone for Watkins, Toney and Erling Haaland. Ollie Watkins has been a very, very solid option for the last few game weeks. I think he's scored in every game week for the last 3 or 4. He's on penalties for Villa. Nice double in 29. Doesn't appear to be blanking in 28. And I think he's a really good option for this period. And it's worth picking him up while he's in this purple patch, and certainly nailed in the Aston Villa team. Second, I've gone for Ivan Toney. Explain a bit more here why. Outstanding for me in terms of captaincy in game week 27. He's on 8 yellow cards at the moment. He's averaging, I think, a yellow every couple of games, so it's a bit of a risk that he's going to get that 2-game yellow card ban for 10 yellows. But I think you really have to hedge against that happening. I mean, he's such a good option, and there are other players around that price you could select. He also doubles, as we know, in game week 29. He's the 90-minute man, takes the penalties for Brentford. I think, or even the Brentford manager, in my opinion, he's genuinely one of the best penalty takers in the world. So whenever he gets a penalty, he's going to pretty much deliver every time. As for this FA investigation, I've no idea, to be honest, what's going on with that. It seems to be taking absolutely ages, and I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest, if it wasn't even concluded by the end of the season. So for me, Tony is a safe pick, and the bigger risk is whether he picks up 2 more yellows and gets the yellow card ban. And as for his underlying numbers, 0.74 expected returns per 90. I think that's on a level, if not slightly better than Harry Kane. It's absolutely elite, and he's definitely one of the best strikers in the Premier League. So for me, there's absolutely no way I can make a wildcard draft without Ivan Toney in it. And then in its totality, here is the draft. So I've gone for Mitoma as a starting spot, but obviously interchangeable with March. I've only gone for him because he's predicted to get more points than March for game week 26. But yeah, there's the rest of my team. I've gone for Pinnock, Trippier, Raya and Mitoma as the additions that you didn't see on the previous screens. Raya, top scoring goalkeeper in FPL at the moment, and for me, he is the best option as a goalkeeper for game week 27 and for game week 29. Mitoma, I don't really think you can make a wildcard draft without him in it. I don't think he's quite as good as Solly March, but again, I think he's unavoidable in your wildcard team just for the upside that he provides with doubles in both 27 and 29. Ethan Pinnock, I talked about him on my players to buy and avoid video. Ben Mee seems to be getting a lot of credit for his attacking returns for Brentford so far, but when you look at the underlying numbers, Pinnock is actually slightly better in terms of expected returns per 90, and he's 0.6 million cheaper. So for me, I can't really ignore Ethan Pinnock over Ben Mee, and already not owning Ben Mee, I think it makes sense to bring the cheaper player in. And then I've gone for the ever reliable Kieran Trippier. I just think I've got so much value tied up in him now. He's gone up in price so much compared to what I bought him for. And he's got some really nice fixtures. Get the Man City game out of the way. He's got Wolves, Forest, and then a double game week. So for me, Kieran Trippier is an absolute shoo-in. And then on the right, I just thought I'd put some players in that I think are worth considering. They didn't quite make their way into my team because I just think the players I have picked are slightly better options, but I can't really argue against picking, Bruno Fernandes, for example, is in absolutely ridiculous form at the moment. Man United absolutely on song. Maybe if you can't afford someone like Salah, Bruno's a perfectly decent backup option. He doubles again in 29. So yeah, you can have him potentially even as a captaincy option for 20 alongside Rashford. And yeah, fixture against Liverpool wouldn't put me off. I think Man United are going to do absolutely fine in that one. Odegaard as a backup to Saka. I think Saka is my personal favourite of the Arsenal options. But yeah, I mean, Odegaard's cheaper. Underlying numbers quite similar, so you could quite feasibly go for him and save yourself some cash. Darwin Núñez is absolutely impossible to ignore for me. His underlying numbers are still absolutely ludicrous. Unfortunately, we've all been trolled by him in game week 25. I think most of us have brought him in for someone like Mitrovic, and he just hasn't featured yet. So fingers crossed. I'm recording this on the Tuesday. Fingers crossed he plays in the game on Wednesday. And yeah, with his underlying numbers and the fact he's got a double in 29, he's really difficult to ignore. And then finally is Brighton's Ferguson, the striker. He's another one I can't really ignore talking about. For me, I don't think his spot in the team is nailed enough to justify picking him over the players I already have. I don't need the budget, so I don't need to go down to a 4.6 million striker. But if you're in a position where you're desperate for budget and looking for a cheap striker, you can't ignore this guy. He looks really good just in general on the eye, and he doubles in 27 and 29. And for all we know, Welbeck could get injured. I don't know his injury status at the moment, but it could well be that he plays all the games anyway because Welbeck's injured. So yeah, I think he's a perfectly decent option if you're scrounging around for a bit of cash. But yeah, that's my wildcard team and some honourable mentions that didn't quite make it. And that's the end of the video. I hope you found it useful, and if you enjoyed it, please leave me a like and subscribe to the Golden Goal channel for plenty more FPL content coming up soon. I'll see you in the next one.